Well, hello and welcome to episode number 435 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's show, we find out what airport has the best queues, we take a look at some whiskey, and a whale beaches itself in the mud. In the military news this week, the RAF are cooking with oil, and the KC-46 flies on and on and on and on. So anyway, joining us this week, as always, over in the PTUK Master Suite studios, he's not flustered at all, but he has got a very fetching jumper on. It's Matt Smith.
Well, no, it's winter now here officially, isn't it, you see? So the cardigans are out now, you see. That's what's happening. Yeah.
What the singers?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the little studio is full of 5 musicians, a.k.a. the Cardigans. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Oh, dear. You can't tell you're a radio DJ. Hey, anyway.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You're skiving this week.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway.
How are things out in the world of Matt Smith, then?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not really a lot to report. Sort of just same Christmas madness, really. Lots of things going on in terms of trying to get cases to customers and things like that. So,
yes.
we've got about sort of 80,000 of our 110,000 successfully delivered to customers, so that's a win. It's been a lot of fun.
Dare I ask, who is the courier of choice this year?
No, you don't want to know.
Okay.
I'll give you a clue. Yeah, it starts with a Y, and actually, to be fair, they're doing a sterling job. They are doing a sterling job.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Not all rumours are true.
Not all rumours are true, okay.
No.
And he's back with us this week again over in his glorious Buckinghamshire stately manor. It is, of course, Neville Bounds.
Yes, here we are. And it's been a very busy week. Very hectic this week for work. Non-stop, no flying, I'm pleased to say. So that's good. But bit of Chiltern Railways activity. A little bit of delay here and there. A bit of sweatiness from some of my fellow passengers. But there you are. That's how it is. Very busy this week. And surprisingly so, because normally by this time of year it's quietened down a bit. But it's just non-stop at the moment. So we'll have to just bear with it, won't we?
I did notice that BA's share price had dropped this week.
It did, yes.
Yeah. It's. I suppose it's good to be busy, though, Nev. Let's be honest. We all spent far too long not being able to do anything. So
I shouldn't really complain.
Or is it one of those where you sort of want that halfway house? Like,
yes.
Never mind, eh?
Yeah, BA's been getting a bit of a relaxing time this week, not having to care for Seat 1A.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I dare say somebody else will have been in Seat 1A.
No, they block it off while Nev's not there.
Do they? Okay.
The whole fleet. Yes, the whole fleet.
Oh, okay. Well, if you say so.
Anyway, you may have heard, but because he's not in the background like he normally is, waiting to be introduced onto the show. But Armando is not with us this week. He's busy having a bit of good old-fashioned family time this week.
It was Thanksgiving yesterday, wasn't it? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so Armando is having a good old family fun day today, I'd imagine, which probably includes flying, to be fair, because it normally does with Armando.
They do. They do have their little cub, don't they? Is it a cub?
They do. Yeah,
their little bear cub. Their little bear cub. Yeah. See, I'm learning.
I know. Every day is a school day.
Those are the rumours.
So we're going to take a quick look then. Who's in the chat room joining us this week? Going to go up to the top here. And first in this week, we had Arnie. Hello to you, Arnie Carlson. Good to see you in there. Lee Davies. Hello to you. Richard Adams. Hello. Hobby Time. Darren Livermore is also in there. Nice to see you in there, Darren. Welcome to the podcast family online. Mazoos. Hello to you, Mazoos. Good to see you in there, our local listener. Let me scroll down, make sure I don't miss anyone. Neville Bounds is obviously in there, keeping an eye on things with his blue spanner of doom. We've got Jonathan Warner also is joining us this week as well. And Masha, hello to you, Masha. Good to see you in there. Dirk, good to see you in there as well. Sturman, hello to you, Sturman. Saw him earlier on today. He was flashing me frantically with his high beams.
I beg your pardon.
Car.
Oh, right.
With his car.
Okay, very
good. whilst travelling through the Thetford Forest, he was.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Thank you. We've
Wait,
got.
does that mean I now have to pay royalties to APG?
Oh, blimey. I mean, APG must owe you about 10 million by now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Nick Codling, hello to you, Nick, as well. Our main man, Micah, is also wielding his blue spanner of doom, so bots beware. Don't forget, John Clarder as well. Hello to you, John. Nice to see you in there as well this evening. And hopefully I have not missed anyone else. No. Don't forget, if you're listening to us via an audio podcast, don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Search for us, Plain Talking UK. We're on there, and you can click the subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified by a little ding on your phone when Matt hits the go live button in the studio. And join the family. Anyway, it's where all the fun is in the chat room. Let's be honest, guys. So we've got loads of stories to get through this week on the show. Loads of great news stories. And if all the team's ready, let's do some commercial news.
We are, yes. Let's do it. Let's do it, yeah.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
And the first story this week comes to us from Av Herald, 1 Mile at a Time, simpleflying.com, Aviation Online, and BBC New or BBC.co.uk. And sad news we had this week. Obviously, this was all over the social medias, including Aviation Herald this week. And the LATAM A320 that collided with a fire truck on departure from Lima, Peru. So Friday, the 18th of November, a LATAM Chile Airbus A320-200 registration Charlie Bravo Hotel Bravo, performing flight LA2213 from Lima to Peru, was accelerating for takeoff from Lima's runway 16 at around 15:11 local time, or 20:11 Zulu, when multiple fire trucks with flashing lights and sirens sounded crossing the runway in front of the accelerating aircraft. The crew rejected to take off at high speed, around about 125 knots over the ground, but weren't able to avoid contact with the fire truck number 3, although the truck tried to turn around in the direction of the aircraft. The right main gear collapsed on the aircraft, causing it to veer right towards the right-hand edge of the runway, coming to a stop partially off the runway around 2,500 meters or 8,300 feet down the runway. A fire erupted around the right-hand engine, a Pratt & Whitney 1127G, and all occupants were able to evacuate the aircraft. The airline reported that the occupants, all of them on board the aircraft, survived. There were 102 passengers and 6 crew on board the aircraft. 24 passengers were also taken to hospital with injuries. 4 of those received serious injuries, and 36 passengers received minor injuries. The fire truck was destroyed. 2 firefighters on board the fire truck involved in the collision did sadly not survive. A 3rd firefighter on the truck involved received serious injuries and remains in critical but stable condition in ICU. Lima Airport partners said the rescue team performed an exercise called Response Time on November the 18th. The exercise seeks to prove that the aeronautical firefighters can respond to an emergency on the runway in a time no longer than 3 minutes. The administrator added that the operation had been previously coordinated with Peruvian Corporation of Commercial Airports and Aviation, or CORPAC. The Air Traffic Authority confirmed the exercise would begin at 15:10 and last around 10 minutes. The accident with the LATAM aircraft took place at 15:11. On Monday, the Peruvian news media outlet Carto Porter revealed the aircraft traffic control audio exchanges between the controllers and the firefighters and the pilots on board the LATAM flight. As reported by Aviation Online, the transcription of the communications show that the firefighter vehicle was authorized to approach up to 90 meters away from the runway axis. At 15:04, the controllers said Rescue 6 cleared approach 90 meters away from runway axis. up to the cones on the vehicular trackside 1. This message authorised the firefighting team to begin the drill. Then 4 minutes later, at 15:09, the response time exercise was confirmed, and at 15:11, a team of 3 firefight trucks left the station, according to Corpac. They were supposed to enter a taxiway, but instead reached the runway at the exact time the LATAM flight was departing, which led to the collision. The International Federation of Airline Pilots Associations, or IFA-LPA, which represents more than 100,000 pilots in nearly 100 countries, released a statement regarding the incident. Specifically, they reported that the pilots of the flight were placed under arrest and held in custody following the incident. They spent roughly 24 hours in jail and were only released on Saturday night. So, Matt, you put the pictures up on the screen there. Obviously, most people, I think, have seen the videos, the various videos that are circulated on the social media pages. We chose not to show them because it's just awful to see. Basically, the videos.
Is this the one? I may be speaking a little bit out of turn here, so somebody please, John, please shut me up if I'm getting this wrong. Is this the one where I saw a selfie being taken? Is that this incident?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was, and again, we've chosen not to use that photo, I should say, as well. And it just to sort of describe it, really, it was 2 people. They were taking a selfie. You could see all the foam and everything that was all there. I mean, to be fair, all you could see was the plane. There wasn't anything, there to see from that. But I love taking a photograph and all that kind of thing, don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's a time and a place for this sort of thing, isn't there? And whilst incredible that nobody on the aircraft was seriously hurt and everybody survived there, of course there were 2 firefighters who lost their life, their lives in this, and there'll be a lot of discussions going on about where the blame lies, for want of a better word, but it is a terrible, terrible accident which shouldn't have happened but did.
Me and Nev were chatting about this, Matt, before you joined us this evening. We were saying that this could have been so much more different. The outcome of this could have been a lot different. It could have been,
absolutely. Yeah.
If you think about it, the aircraft was doing 125 knots. That's probably 15 knots below V1 speed anyway. So it's going, it is almost committed to takeoff at that point anyway.
Yeah.
And certainly in the high-speed stop regime of a takeoff. Why on earth did the fire department think it was a great idea to do this exercise when there's live traffic going on the active runway? I don't understand. They must know the performance of their vehicles, fully loaded up with foam and water and all the rest of it, and they must know approximately how long it's going to take them to get to any point on the runway. I don't see why you need to test that out. This is not a new airport. I mean, it's been there for a long time, and they've had fire and rescue services there for a long time. So I don't quite understand that. I also do not understand why the flight deck crew ended up in jail. When it was at least the preliminary information is that the fire crews crossed the active runway or entered the active runway without clearance from ATC. So many questions there, but thank goodness we have a situation where, I mean, obviously 2 firefighters have lost their lives over this, but at least the aircraft was able to come to a stop. And how the flight deck crew kept it on the runway is beyond me, because that's very hard work, especially with the missing landing gear and damage and goodness knows what else. So I think it was very fortunate, but I do seriously hope that lessons are going to be learnt from this right across the world. Absolutely shocking.
Actually, Nev, our friend John Falk in the chat room says, makes a good point, actually. A couple of good comments from John. Says, nowadays, I think that boundaries have gone with mobile phones.
Yes, no self-censorship, is there? No.
And also John says, apparently it's a normal thing to arrest people involved in that country.
Yes, that's possibly on the grounds that it's guilty until proven innocent. Perhaps the opposite of some other countries, perhaps. But yes, good point, John. Well made.
Nick Codling's comment is also arguably the selfie takers may have been unaware of the firefighters losing their lives and were likely feeling euphoric following a close call. Actually, to be fair, that's not a bad shout, actually, is it? I suppose. I guess credit where credit's due. You wouldn't necessarily know, what exactly had happened, I guess, at that point until you got off the aircraft, and I don't know, perhaps you wrongly making the assumption that everything was all okay.
With an aircraft on fire, I definitely want to be getting as far away as possible from that aircraft.
Yeah, indeed, that is true.
So, moving on to the next story, Matt, and this is quite. When I found this week, I thought, we haven't had a story like this for a while. So,
no, indeed, and this is this is an interesting one, I suppose. Apologies, I'm having to read it off my phone at the moment. The headline is Bristol Airport, one of the worst for security queues in the UK, according to which this is on bristolworld.com is the source for this. Bristol Airport has been ranked as one of the worst airports in the country for its security queues. This is according to a survey conducted by consumer group Which that ranked and compared the UK's 14 major airports. Which researchers surveyed 1,300 people who travelled to or from a UK airport over that period. They were asked how long it took them to queue at security. In what is not a good look for Bristol Airport, it ranked at the second worst, with passengers having to wait an average of 30 minutes. Actually, I don't think a 30-minute wait for security is a bad way. I'd chalk that up as a win if I was at Stansted, certainly. Anyway, a total of 17% of the respondents reported queues in excess of 1 hour at the airport. Okay, that's slightly different. Finishing top of the pile was Leeds Bradford Airport, as travellers experienced an average security queue length of 35 minutes. More than a quarter, 27% of the facility users, waited more than an hour to pass through the security checkpoints. So let's go through the list. I assume one being good in this particular list.
Yes, one is the best.
So yes, okay. So we'll start with the worst. As we mentioned, it was Leeds Bradford with 35 minutes. 13 was Bristol Airport with an average wait time of 30 minutes. Birmingham came in at number 12 with 24 minutes. Interesting to know why they put Birmingham and Manchester, who have the same wait time. Perhaps one airport is favoured over the other, I'm not quite sure. But 12th and 11th place, both with 24 minutes of Birmingham and Manchester Airport. London Heathrow was in at number 10 with a 20-minute wait. 19 minutes is your average wait at Luton. At number 9. Number 8 is Belfast International Airport. That's 18 minutes. London Stansted, 18 minutes at number 7. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. Number 6, Edinburgh Airport is 16 minutes. London Gatwick at number 5. That's 16 minutes as well. Number 4 is Newcastle at 15 minutes. 3 is Glasgow International Airport at just 13 minutes. Belfast City is also 13 minutes at number 2. And at number 1, Nev, you'll be delighted to know, with the shortest wait time on average, is London City.
Yes, but I'm surprised at that because they've got just one of these machines where you can put everything through. You do not need to take your liquids out, your laptop, just put the whole lot through. Unfortunately, at the end of all that, they then pull all your bags off and then you have to queue up whilst they do occasionally a manual search. So I would say my experience has been longer than 12 minutes, but nonetheless, at least they're sort of going in the right direction. And the check-in times are short anyway there, so it's not too bad. But
you would imagine, wouldn't you, that this list would reflect the size of the airport as having the worst wait time. So, Heathrow Airport is way bigger than Leeds Bradford Airport, yet Leeds Bradford Airport is the worst in the list for waiting time. I mean, London City, I can see why that's number 1 because London City is a tiny, tiny airport when you compare it to the other ones.
Yeah, but it's also all about how much time you've got to build into the whole travel process because you do not know what you're going to be dealing with. Let's be honest. You can turn up at almost any airport and it could be 10 minutes, it could be 50 minutes, it could be an hour and a half or worse. So
I mean, if you're in a lounge, Nev, it doesn't matter, does it?
It does, because you still got to get through security to begin with. Because sometimes security is, in fact, often security is before the lounge anyway. So so
Oh, so you can't even amuse yourself with a bacon roll in the meantime?
no,
How rude! How very dare you?
Darren's in the chat room says, "Wonderful Luton."
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Is that?
And Al's always a big fan of Luton, isn't he? Because he operates out of there, and he always says what a great experience. It's also he's going through the crew lane.
That probably
Probably
helps.
like Darren, I would imagine. But nonetheless, I think you still get lumped into everybody else. Although there are crew lanes here and there, sometimes you do end up in the general melee of everybody else sometimes. But interesting.
Well, I guess it's a sort of funny one. But I mean, is it genuinely one of those? I mean, how many of us here would be deciding which airport we fly from based on how long it takes to get through security?
Nobody, because it's all about destination, really, isn't it?
Well, yes, quite. So I suppose this information is helpful in the fact that it allows you to perhaps prepare yourself for the sort of to allow enough time to get there and things like that. Perhaps Carlos has found something that's amused him.
Just reading the chat room. Mazouz, our good friend Mazouz in the chat room, is saying, "I'm sure London Norwich is waiting times are even shorter." Yes, I wouldn't surprise me, Mazouz, actually. And,
yes, I mean, the only danger you have at Norwich is because it's still basically a chicken shed which is likely to get struck by lightning. Let's be honest. So I suppose that's the only risk you have there.
Darren says in there. Darren says very expedient if one uses fast track. Well, we haven't all got that option, Darren. No. Honestly.
No,
I will be actually having sort of second-hand information about Norwich Airport the week after next, because I've got an appointment in Norwich, and I'll have my boss with me from work, and he's going to fly back to Amsterdam from Norwich Airport. So,
yes, of course, because they do regular daily services from Schiphol still, don't they?
So we'll see what Royal Dutch Airlines makes of all that.
Has he won the lottery, Nev?
Probably. I don't think he needs to.
He's not told me the price of the ticket. What I can only imagine.
No, indeed.
Talking about lounges.
Oh no! So no, John Falk saying my experience going through T5 Heathrow in transit in the last few months is that was helpful. Is that the machines allow you to leave everything to go through, have a high breakdown frequency. Maybe I was just terribly unlucky.
That is true, John. Yeah. Yes, I've had a similar experience there as well. But it's,
Did I hear something on it was either Sky News or BBC News this week? I read it online. They're talking about abolishing the liquids, the liquids.
Yes.
What they call it?
The limit on liquids.
Limit. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. They're on about scrapping the maximum amount size of liquids you take through security. Apparently, it's to do with the new machine.
2024 is what they're talking about.
Right.
So it's not exactly
not this week then.
Around the corner.
No.
Yeah, apparently they've already started trials in Dublin for lowering that. Yeah. Yeah, we read a story about it. Apparently, I don't remember. This is the John's back, everyone. By the way,
John's back. The voice in our ear is back.
The voice in our ear is back with the font of knowledge of things that we've already forgotten about. But that's just because we're all a little bit older than he is.
That's true. Way older. To be that age again. Anyway, Nev, you've got the next story, and it's all to do with clubs.
Yes, on thepointsky.com it says that Delta now offers priority boarding at Sky Clubs to skip the wait. Well, the Atlanta-based carrier is in the midst of rolling out priority lanes for access to the Sky Clubs, as confirmed to the Point Sky by a carrier spokesman. These prioritised entry lanes will be roped off from the regular line and will offer expedited entry into the lounge when it's operating at peak capacity. Eligible travellers can then use the new priority access lanes, which include Delta 1 business class flyers, Delta 360 invite-only elites, Delta Diamond Medallion top-tier passengers, Delta first-class flyers with lounge memberships. Just as these groups enjoy priority boarding before departure, these flyers will now also enjoy expedited access to the Sky Club as well. Well, the move to separate the Sky Club entry line comes as Delta suffers from severe lounge overcrowding flooding at many of its hubs. With tons of eligible passengers passing through airports each day, there's not simply enough room in the Sky Club to accommodate everyone at once. Of all of the US airlines, Delta is the most generous with lounge access. Anyone with Delta Sky Miles, Reserve American Express card or the Platinum card from American Express has access to the Sky Club, along with the carrier's long-haul business class passengers. Sky Club members and top-tier flyers selecting a lounge membership as their annual perk. Delta doesn't yet operate business class only lounges, which further exacerbates the overcrowding issue for its popular Sky Clubs. As of June the 1st, 2022, you can no longer enter a Sky Club more than 3 hours before the scheduled departure time of your flight. The only exception is for connections which aren't subject to the 3-hour rule. I can't help thinking that there's been a level of complication here, once again, which is unnecessary, isn't it, really? I'm not a Delta flyer myself, but all of these levels and all the rest of it, I mean, the poor gate staff or the staff in the lounge must spend all their time checking all the paperwork to make sure you're allowed in and all the rest of it. And I think
your lounge access, Nev, is that just for the BA lounges, or do you have access to?
No, I can only use any One World lounge. So when I flew to Helsinki the other week from Terminal 3 with Finnair, I could use the Cathay Pacific lounge, which is quite a nice one. But you've got to have a business class ticket or a BA Silver or Gold status holder to do that. I certainly thought the Cathay Pacific Lounge was particularly nice at T3. At Heathrow. That's really worth doing. And I want to try and keep my sort of status thing going because it does help. There's no two ways about it. Obviously, I've got to do a lot of flying to keep that going. But I think it is worth it. But what's happening now is that because so many people are reaching those higher tier statuses, the lounges are not really designed for that number of people. So trying to get a seat in some of these lounges is a bit difficult sometimes, I've got to say. But
actually, I will say when we flew out of Heathrow to Jersey, Nev, I was quite surprised at how busy that lounge was that we were in.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the first lounge we went into. Yeah, that was very hectic there. But you have to agree that the food was nice, though. That was
yes,
too, wasn't it?
I won't deny that the food was amazing.
There you are.
Yes, you have to definitely put on a food stone there if you're delayed. Anyway, next story, and we're always talking, aren't we, guys, on the show about Boeing and Airbus and Boeing and Airbus and Boeing and Airbus.
I've heard of both of those.
Yes, but there's a competitor. And the story comes to us from airdatanews.com. And the first series production C919 emerges in China Eastern Airlines livery. According to the Chinese news agency, the first aircraft of China Eastern Airlines carried out a check flight on Sunday before being officially sent to the launch customer. It was the first time that the C919 registration Bravo 001 Juliet emerged with China Eastern's livery after being repainted weeks ago. Chinese media also reported that the aircraft will be registered with the brand name B919 Alpha. Ooh, how very apt. In place of the provisional COMAC registration. Announced in 2008, the C919 is a narrow-body commercial jet proposed to compete with the A320 and 737, which are currently the best-selling airliners in the world. According to COMAC, the plane can be configured with 168 seats. My God, that must be squeezed in. And has a flight range of 4,075 kilometers. COMAC is also working on the development of the C919ER, but don't they all, with an extended range of 5,555 kilometers. Despite being assembled in China, the C919 still relies on many components imported from the West, such as engines, avionics systems, which are supplied by companies such as General Electric, Safran, and Honeywell International. Launch customer of the new aircraft, China Eastern Airlines, has a firm order for 5 units of the C919 and an option to purchase an additional 15. The aircraft also has been ordered by at least 30 other Chinese airlines and institutions, according to the manufacturer's website. The C919 has more than 800 orders. Blimey. The new COMAC aircraft will, for the time being, be restricted to air travel market in China and in countries with close ties with Beijing. Exports, especially to operators in the West, depend on certification from international aeronautical bodies such as the FAA from the United States, EASA from Europe, which has been working on validating the Chinese jet since 2017. However, despite its slow development, the C919 comes to market with a highly competitive price. The aircraft is valued at around, back of the sofa, $50 million, well below the list values of most recent versions of the A320 and 737. The Chinese company, in partnership with Russian group UAC, is also working on the development of the CR929 wide-body model, which should reach the market by the end of this decade. Do we ever think the C919 will be anywhere close to overtaking the Airbus or the 737 or the 320?
I'd be a little surprised.
Like I say, my honest answer, no.
Do we think the FAA or EASA will certify
I'm
the aircraft?
to be brutally honest, mate, until you started reading that story, my answer to that question would have been, who? so yeah, I think, I mean, it's lovely that, I mean, there are, you know, they're not the only people in the market, let's be honest. You know, Boeing and Airbus are two very large players in the market, but there are lots of other people who make you know, aircraft. I suppose they're just the ones that the big airlines are using, and there must be a reason why they're choosing those over the other options that are available there. And I suspect some of it is parts availability, to be honest with you. You can be sure with those big companies that you're not going to have trouble getting your hands on parts.
But when you think China, we get quite a bit. I think we do. I presume we get quite a lot of our electronics and bits and pieces from China, do we, Matt? Components and bits.
Well,
and pieces,
yeah, well, yes,
electrical stuff.
Yeah, they're not the only ones. I know people. I know, like in America and stuff, they're trying to sort of, you know, make their own and stuff, but the majority of, you know, the components and stuff are coming from places like that, 100%.
But like the story says, they're still relying on importing stuff from other countries to build the aircraft.
Yeah, but then to be fair, I don't think there's any aircraft that isn't. You know, there isn't one aircraft that is solely reliant on the goods that are made in that, you know, in their home country. So I don't see that as a concern personally, because everybody sources their bits and pieces from everywhere else.
Thoughts, Nev, before we move on?
Well, it's all about certification, isn't it, really? Because unless EASA and the FAA make sure this thing's validated in the first place, it's not going to sort of go very far on the other continents, is it? But I think, I don't know. I think this is going to be one of those stories which is sort of, we'll have to revisit later on, because it's obviously going to be an ongoing story, isn't it? But I think at the moment it's a bit premature to say suddenly it's just going to be, you know, a dominant player, you know.
Yes.
Thanks for that, John.
Yeah. just trying to put Nev off now, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, moving on. Matt, you've got the next story. Oh, what a surprise. Another new low-cost airline operating transatlantic flights.
Indeed. Yeah, but don't be so sniffy. Come on. This is, you know, for me, it's the only way I'm going to be able to go and visit my friends in the States.
It will have disappeared within the next 3 months.
Oh, never mind. Glass half full, mate. You better top that one up, I reckon. That's what
It is, yes.
He's only halfway through. There we go. New low-cost airline to operate transatlantic flights from Northern Ireland. Fly Atlantic plans to launch a new transatlantic airline at Belfast International Airport in summer 2024. It aims to fly to the US and Canada, British and European destinations, and, once fully operational, plans to fly to 35 destinations. The initial announcement is the first stage in its plans. The next steps will be securing investment, aircraft and an operating licence. Initially, the airline says it will employ 50 people at Belfast International Airport and 250 crew. It plans to create 1,000 jobs in the first 5 years within the airline and indirectly create thousands more in tourism and support sectors. The new airline says it will create a major hub linking Europe with North American destinations to supplement local passenger numbers. It'll initially operate 6 aircraft at its Antrim base, growing the fleet to 18 by 2028. Based on information released to media by CEO Andrew Pine, Fly Atlantic would lease either Airbus A321neos or 737 Maxes to operate flights. Pine comes with a wealth of experience in the airline industry, with airlines ranging from WOW Air to Vietjet Air, which I don't know, Vietjet Air, to TUS Airways. Interesting.
Can I interject at that point?
I do.
If he has got so much experience of airline operations, he will probably know that low-cost stuff to the US from the UK has got a history of failure in this country, apart from Freddie Laker, probably, and Virgin Atlantic in the old days. But there have been so many failures of this kind of operation. Now, we're talking about different aircraft now. We're talking about the A321neos and the 737 Maxes. So obviously fuel burn is a lot less, but getting bums on seats and actually getting the whole operation to work properly with a limited number of aircraft is always challenging, especially if one goes tech or you've got a crew problem somewhere. So obviously I wish them all the best, but let's see how it goes. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I suppose the John's just saying in our ears here, one of the things that's rather interesting here is will they have the market from Northern Ireland to fill these planes, or are they banking on the fact that, I mean, perhaps it's cheaper to fly out of that airport, and if you were, say, for example, in the UK, you could very easily get an EasyJet, because Belfast City, I think, is fed by EasyJet, if my memory serves correctly, out of Stansted.
Yeah,
But as an example,
this is going from Belfast International, so that's a slightly underused airport anyway at the moment for sort of commercial operations. But
I'm trying to think, is it Belfast International is the one where I think that is where EasyJet flies into, if my memory serves.
it might be, yes.
Oh, they fly to both, apparently.
A lot of them are going into City Airport, but yeah.
Yeah, but is that what they're banking on, perhaps? Is that those who, because these flights into, I mean, we've used it because, our flight, even in this current climate, was only £26 into Belfast. I want to say Belfast International. £26, and then, a cheaper flight from there on. Perhaps that's what they're banking on, is the fact that the lower running costs, as you say, from that airport that is quite clearly underutilised. Perhaps that's what they're banking on.
Yes, I don't know. I'm a bit like Carlos with this one. I think I've just got this. It's a very difficult route to do this UK to the US, and also they're talking about European destinations as well, so it's not just across the pond, it's other destinations too they're talking about, so that there's probably more chance with that, but the US hop across the pond and maybe to Canada as well is definitely challenging with the high cost of actually operating that in the first place. So trying to do low-cost transatlantic flying is in today's market very challenging. But they're talking about 2024, and that's a couple of years away yet.
2 years off, yeah.
Let's see.
It's all about service as well, isn't it? If you're paying, if you can get a cheap flight with this airline when they eventually do start, if they do start, but then you've got to pay this for something else, you've got to pay this to get something, you've got to pay this and pay this and pay this. By the time you've paid everything for your extra suitcase and all the rest of it, you could probably go on BA or Virgin or someone else's website and book an equivalent flight with a lot higher standard of service, IFE, food, for a similarish price.
Yes. Well, so once engines on his aircraft, does he? Oh, that's extra, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Quite. Yes. Amen to
Seat
that.
1A? No, we took that one out. It's gone. Matt, no, sorry, Nev. Sorry, you've got the next story, and it's all about for the next time you go to Heathrow, Nev, and you can give them a good old stare.
Well, yes. This is going to be another one of those glass half empty ones, possibly. Let's see how we go anyway. The headline on nfcw.com says that British Airways is going to be trialling contactless biometric boarding at London's Heathrow Airport. And passengers on BA flights from Heathrow's Terminal 5 to Malaga in Spain will be the first to trial a contactless biometric check-in and boarding system that will enable them to travel through the airport and board an international flight without needing to show their passport. Customers who sign up to take part in the trial will be invited to scan their face, passport and boarding pass on their smartphone or tablet ahead of travel, with this information being kept safe and secure, BA says. I'm just pausing there for effect. When trial participants arrive at the airport, smart biopod cameras verify their identity in under 3 seconds, allowing them to keep their passport safely in their pockets until they reach their destination. Not only is this the first time that our customers have been able to register their biometric information at home, but it's the first time they can use it for British Airways international flights, BA Operations Transformation Manager David Breeze explains. This is a secure and efficient tool that makes for a smarter and smoother airport experience, which will reduce the time it takes us to board aircraft. The beauty of this technology is that it also frees up our people up to look after more complex customer inquiries and deliver the best possible customer service. BA plans to trial contactless biometric check-in and boarding for 6 months on flights to Malaga and will extend the system to other international flights if it is successful, the airline says.
All right, so what happens
pausing
then?
for dramatic effect.
What happens then when Nev obviously has all this gumph in place, but then in the meantime Nev grows a beard, a moustache, and decides to wear a wig, and then goes to check in.
What I do at the weekend is my own business. But on a slightly more serious note, I don't think that the bottleneck is with passport check-in issues or checking issues at the gate. The bottleneck is with the security side of things and the check-in in the first place, not passport identification. And how many times has your biometric passport not worked when you go through the self-service machines? Mine works about 2 out of 5 times on average, something like that. But it'll be interesting to see, because they're doing a very long test on this for 6 months, but only on one sector. So we'll have to see, what that brings. But,
I'm so sorry, Nev. I don't know if you can see Bill's comment in the chat.
I can see Bill's comment, and Bill says, quite rightly, BA has such a great history of IT development, and I think there's a lot to be said about that, which I can't possibly comment on.
No, of course, yeah. Mike is getting involved as well. He's saying whether an airline says contactless, what they mean is lower service.
Yes, and of course. The thing is, even with biometric passports as they are today, if it doesn't work, then you're going to a new queue and then having a conversation with the immigration boys and girls, and that's great. But honestly, it's it just doesn't work. John Falk's asking me, do I take my glasses off when I go through the machines? Yes, I do, because my lenses are very flat, I would say, and they do reflect quite badly back into the camera. So I've actually got to take them off. Otherwise, they don't actually work. But yeah, I think this is. I'd be interested to know how much this operation is costing, just this trial period, because I'm thinking here that they're solving a problem that doesn't exist.
True. But you see, the mistake you're making there, Nev, is you're applying logic to...
I'm also not experienced on airline ground operations either, so I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But I'm just thinking about my experience to date, where I'm flying probably once a fortnight internationally, and apart from the odd hiccup, I don't have much problem with passport interface and boarding pass interface. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. But again, a story definitely worth coming back to once they've started the trials and see what the success rate is.
We'll have to see if you can have a look at it when you're next at Heathrow, Nev.
Well, yes, but then it's only on one sector, on one route, which is to Malaga.
Well, you'll have to book a flight to Malaga then.
Oh, I can just see Nev in the clubs.
Oh, dear. Please.
Yeah, living it large. He's got his glow sticks. He's getting stuck.
You can head out there and have a good old traditional Malagan meal.
Mind you, the only time I nearly went to Malaga is when we nearly had a diversion going into Gibraltar. Malaga is the favoured diversion airport when it's a little bit windy at Gibraltar. But I've never actually been to Malaga.
So you're polite. What you're politely saying is you almost accidentally went to Malaga.
Exactly right. Yes. Yeah. But there we go. So, but let's keep an eye on this one because I think it could be interesting. But I think there are definitely challenges with it too.
Well, before we move on, Mash is the luckiest one in the whole of the chat room, including us hosts, it's only failed an automatic passport control machine once in the 10 years that she's been travelling.
Mind you, I've got to say the Dutch passport recognition stuff is really good. It's never not worked there for me at all.
Really?
So it's only when I've come back home, nearly always through Heathrow, whether it's said, please contact her.
I wonder what the difference. Which company is it? So it's not the passport at fault then, by the sound of it.
Well, you don't know, do you? That's the thing. Those are questions that we don't.
But if your passport's working okay, there, why is it not working okay here? So it's not the passport at fault.
Stuart Aslett makes a very good comment in the chat room. Stuart is saying that with these machines, there's no wages or pensions needed for any of those machines.
True.
The other thing is that I'm just thinking about. I'm just going to compare. I'm going to do a slight rant here, so I apologise.
Go on, Nev.
But if you think that the in the case of driving, especially in the United Kingdom, you will hardly ever get pulled over by a police officer because you've been speeding. That is almost never going to happen. You will get a ticket, certainly, because of speed cameras. However, the policemen back in the day, policemen and women would pull you over and advise you on your driving, perhaps, and they might let you get away with it as well if you weren't driving.
Really?
They might say, well, you were doing 10 miles an hour over the limit, but just take it easy and off you go. And that has happened to me back in the day when I was a lot younger. However, that's a bit like the speed cameras. It's a pass-fail scenario. And if you then apply the same sort of thing to what we've got going on with the passport situation, can the immigration folks then question the person who's gone through with a passport that appears to be okay but may not be okay? Is there going to be like a secondary situation, a bit like they've got in most of the passport halls anyway, when you've got the machines that you put your passport onto? There are some guys and girls in the background just having a secondary look, I think, as well. So maybe if that is the case, then that won't be so bad. But as I say, I think this is possibly solving a problem that doesn't currently exist, or as Stuart said, that also means less expensive labour, doesn't it? Even with the cost of the machines in the first place, perhaps.
Very true.
Yes, trip to Malaga for you, I think, please, Nev. Yeah,
we're sending you to Malaga.
Shall I do that? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign up for that, and I'm going to do a PT UK trip to Malaga and expect another rant. Or I might go, do you know what? That was fantastic.
That's genius. That works. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, right. You never know.
We'll do some research on that. We'll do some research on that, Nev.
Indeed.
Indeed. It's all going to be exciting in the new year, I think.
It is.
Anyway, so this next story comes to us from flightglobal.com and flightradar24.com. The only thing is, we'll have to put Nev in economy. But anyway, this story is U.S. regulators warn A220. I'm only joking, Nev. U.S. regulators warns A220 operators to push the right button. U.S. regulators have disclosed that two nearly catastrophic events were among 38 takeoff incidents involving inadvertent Airbus A220 autopilot engagement. Try saying that after 3 of these. And are taking additional action to prevent a reoccurrence. Transport Canada has already mandated aircraft flight manual changes to emphasise the risk of unintentionally activating the autopilot during the takeoff roll. But the US FAA is imposing an additional requirement after an incident in September in which the crew attempted to re-engage a disconnected auto throttle but mistakenly activated the autopilot, causing the jet to rotate below the V1 decision speed. The control panel for the auto throttle and autopilot engagement is structured in such a way that it is possible for the flight crew to mistakenly engage the autopilot when attempting to re-engage the auto throttle, says the US FAA. Activation of the autopilot is normally prohibited below 400 feet. And the FAA states that the auto throttle is prone to disconnect during turbulence because it sources airspeed information from a different source than the flight control system monitor. Different sources for pressure altitude between systems can also cause disconnection. Operators have already been instructed by Transport Canada to amend flight manuals to warn an inadvertent autopilot engagement could result in premature rotation, tail strike, or inability to climb or loss of control. But the FAA's directive goes further by requiring an additional limitation in the manual. The prohibition of selecting or reselecting the auto throttle once the thrust levers have been advanced for the takeoff setting. This will apply until the aircraft is at least 400 feet above the ground, the threshold for autopilot engagement. Wow. So that's interesting to read, actually. So they're saying that the auto throttle and the autopilot selection controls are very close to each other.
Also,
which is
I think that it's interesting is that the FAA are starting to get very keen on this sort of thing, especially in the light of what has happened previously with Boeing aircraft, specifically the Max, and the FAA were accused of, or Boeing were being accused of being in the FAA's pocket a little bit in various bits of the press. So perhaps they're actually taking some proactive measures here, and these are amongst 38 takeoff incidents, it says. So it is significant. But you would have thought, wouldn't you, if there is a possibility of this, then this is the sort of stuff that would have come out in people's sim sessions and recurrent training and this kind of stuff. But in the heat of the moment, when you're under pressure from ATC to get on with it or whatever it is, I think that there's some argument in there. And Bill makes a very good point, actually. How many pilots will admit that they're prone to premature rotation? I wonder what he means by that.
I have no words. I think that's probably
Can I point out this is a family show?
It is, certainly.
You're not doing it with enough gusto. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm in nowhere anywhere as good as you, Matt. I'm
family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Thank you. That's another 20 quid.
I know, it's costing us a fortune.
Look, when I've got the sim set up here, and I've got the MCP panel, which I have on the sim here, the auto throttle control and the autopilot disconnect controls are quite a way away from each other. When you look at them on the control panel, it'd be interesting to see. Where a picture of the control panel on the Bombardier to see how close they are together, because you would initially think that because commonality between airliners is I know Airbus and Boeing are both different manufacturers, but
no,
the way they place the things on the flight deck, like behind me here on a 757, these things, if you look at an Airbus, all these particular kind of style of gauges or screens are in the same position, showing the same information, except on an Airbus you haven't got this thing here, the control yoke. But do you see what I mean? You'd think they would have these switches, critical switches, I might add, quite a way apart from each other. But I don't know. I'll have to look at a picture. I'll have to find a picture for the A220 flight deck. We need an any A220 pilots listening to the show, get in contact. We'll have you on the show. Matt, you have got the next story, and this amused Nev muchly, I'll tell you, with this one.
Right, okay, fair enough. It's, here we go. Good luck, everyone. Beluga gets stuck in the mud. Is the headline. Coming from several sources, this Travel Radar, Aerotime.aero and Av Herald, which I know is one of Carlos's favourite sites for information. And a Beluga XL missed a U-turn at the end of the runway of Albert Picardy Airport, France, on the 18th of November. The Airbus Beluga XL, registration Foxtrot Golf X-Ray Lima November, was operating flight Bravo Golf 127 November from Saint-Nazaire Montour Airport? San Jose. Okay, that's so close. Yeah. Saint-Nazaire Montour Airport, SNR2 Albert Picardy Airport, and has landed safely at 12:47 on runway 27. According to Av Herald, the A330 Beluga landed on the runway and proceeded to roll to the back area at the end of the runway, where it attempted to make a 180-degree turn. After turning about 135 degrees, the aircraft's nose and right-hand main gear wheels veered off the paved surface, and the cargo-only jet became embedded in the mud. The plane was eventually moved back onto the runway at 9:15 p.m. on Sunday the 20th of November. Unfortunately, the recovery period was prolonged by poor weather conditions and the challenges presented by the aircraft's considerable size at 207 feet in length and 62 feet in height.
Yeah, you don't want to damage those too much. There aren't many Belugas around.
No.
Transporting the Airbus parts to and from. So, that would be awkward, to say the least.
Dirk S. is saying in the chat room, the show will take a few minutes longer, ladies and gentlemen, because Matt has to try and pronounce a French airport name. It's a very good point. Thank you, Dirk. You'd have thought... Yes. Yes. So we have pictures. Sorry. Yes. That's. I was too busy worrying about French pronunciations. Here we go.
Pronunciations.
I'm not even indulging that with a.
Hello.
Yes, it's okay. Stop it now. Gosh, that's quite the ruck.
Well off the paved surface, isn't it? That's not even close.
He's gone off a bit there.
Yeah. I think somebody's miscalculated the turning circle of this particular vehicle. It is a beautiful aircraft. There is something really quite... It does literally look like a whale, doesn't it? I mean, it's just...
Well, when I've been, in fact, with one of my customers, his office is quite near Harden Airport, near where the Airbus factory is. So we quite often have breakfast up there by the airfield and go and see these things take off and land. Beautiful, looking aircraft. Very unusual. But no, that's going to be a bit of paperwork there, isn't it? I would say.
Richard Adams is saying, Beluga me, that's a mess.
Yeah, you're right, he's not wrong.
It's going to take some serious work with the Karcher pressure washer.
I think that wheel's going to take some significant work. Look, I mean, that is clay right there.
Of course, things are always made that much more difficult when the ground is not as dry as it was perhaps indeed. 3 or 4 months ago.
Yes, if it was, I mean, I think to be fair, the weight of this aircraft, I don't think it'd matter if it hadn't rained for 11 weeks. I think it would still, have still left a bit of an indentation in the thing. I'm trying to remember, John. I seem to remember when we went to Toulouse that we saw that, didn't we? I think one of these anyway. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, over at Toulouse. See, I can pronounce them. Why are they never at these airports where I can pronounce anyway? Sorry.
Darren in the chat room says, "Did they land runway 26? Did you say, Matt? I think it was
27 they landed.
27.
Yeah, no, it was 27 they landed at 12:47 on runway 27. And I know I'm not going to say the airport name again.
Yeah, I was going to have a go then, but I've just looked at it. No, I'm not going to bother.
Oh, you're just no fun.
No. Anyway, moving swiftly on,
He makes it sound so easy, doesn't he?
Nev, can you raise your glass to this next story?
It's time for some drinking, I'm pleased to say.
Is it?
And the website is thedrinksbusiness.com. Diageo launches luxury whiskey studio at Singapore Changi Airport, and they've introduced a luxury gifting studio for Johnny Walker whiskey at the Singapore Changi Airport for the festive season. The new studio, based at Terminal 3, will showcase Johnny Walker Blue Label and the fifth release in the series, Johnny Walker Blue Label Ghost and Rare Port Dundas Limited Edition from the Glasgow Ghost Distillery of Port Dundas. According to the drinks giant, the new installation will primarily be focused on Johnny Walker's luxury gifting accessories, including gift bags and personalised luggage tags. Additionally, to boost brand exposure, Changi Rewards and iShop Changi members will also be able to walk away with a free Johnny Walker Blue duffel bag with any purchase of Johnny Walker Blue Label. The new Elusive Expressions special releases Scotch Whisky Collection will also be available in the studio, along with gift offerings from Bailey's and Tanqueray for the first time in APAC travel retail, including chocolate truffles and Tanqueray jellies. Cool. The new Johnny Walker Blue Label Ghost and Rare Port Dundas gifting studio, which will be located in the departure lounge of Terminal 3 of Changi Airport, will only be available until the 31st of December. So get over there sharpish. Sounds great, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Really,
I mean, this just adds more fuel to our passenger excitement.
So shall I go over there and do a recce as well?
I think so.
Oh yeah, we'll sort that.
So yeah.
So it's Malaga.
We'll start with Malaga, then we'll go to Singapore after that.
Right, okay.
I don't think you have time for work anymore, Nev, I'm afraid. Sorry, all these flights you need to make.
That's right. Oh dear, amazing. But no, sounds great, doesn't it? Great initiative.
No, Nev, you've got a Jersey story next, haven't you?
Yes, a bit of a part two, actually, to the story we ran last week. Our good friend that we met on the flight going to the air show, John Falk, we spoke about his father and grandfather flight last week. But he also was talking about one of the other really important things on the island there, which was the final call to save Jersey's historic de Havilland Heron, an 11th hour call to help safeguard the future of a historic island aircraft has been issued by the man who saved it from the scrap heap. Matt Palmer bought the de Havilland Heron, which used to fly between the Channel Islands, the UK and continental Europe, for just £1 after the company that previously owned it went into liquidation. Mr. Palmer, who leads the government's cyber emergency response team, stepped up to buy the aircraft last year when it became clear no one else was prepared to save the propeller-driven passenger plane from the scrapyard. Since then, he's been searching for ways to keep the Duchess of Brittany, which first took off in the 1950s in the island as a static exhibit, as a visitor attraction and for educational purposes. He said that the prospect of getting the Cold War era aircraft flying again had been considered, but a combination of regulatory hurdles and running costs had ruled that option out. But part of the challenge is because we are on an island and access to things like hangarage and engineering services are limited, he said. Whereas if you're in mainland UK or France, you would have more access to classic aviation services. That's very true, actually. The Heron had been located at the airport on a section of tarmac without cover since 2019, but Mr. Palmer said its future was by no means certain. The challenge is, even with a decommissioned aircraft, we need space, and at the moment we have no viable location in Jersey. We want to create a future for it, so we need to ensure protection, and that means some form of coverage. Ideally, I would like to be able to do that here and keep her in Jersey because of the heritage story that she tells, but I've not been able to locate a place to do that, he said. Mr. Palmer explained that as an alternative solution, he was also in discussions with UK aviation charities and museums that had expressed an interest in the aircraft. Of course, what that would mean is that she would cease to be available in terms of a heritage and educational opportunity for Jersey, and we would lose a little bit of our island history forever. However, it would preserve the aircraft and would still tell the story of that period in aviation. He added that this winter could be the last opportunity to find the plane a permanent home in the island, and that he was also writing to organisations including Jersey Heritage and the Pallet Steam Motor and General Museum to see if they could help. This is the final call, and we are looking at due diligence processes for the UK options, he said. If there are no opportunities this side of winter, I would expect they'll be looking at relocating her off the island next year. This needs to be her last year exposed and uncovered in Jersey, he said, but there is still a risk she could end up being scrapped, but hopefully that is unlikely. Well, that's a fascinating story, John. Thanks very much indeed for drawing our attention to it, and I really do hope that they can keep the aircraft in Jersey. I think that's where it belongs, really, but it's just down to funding, and as Carlos and I saw when we went airside in Jersey and actually on the main airport, apron area itself, there's very limited space there, and also in other parts of the island as well. So let's hope they can find a solution, and we'll definitely come back to that story when we have some more information on it. John, perhaps you keep us updated if you hear any more.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating little aircraft, isn't it?
So going back to our Malaga story earlier, team.
Uh-oh.
So I've done some research. We're going to send Nev to Malaga, obviously, because we want him to experience, the biometric thing.
Right.
Now I've looked at BA flights. We could get Nev in with BA to Malaga for the day, go there and then fly back same day. £622 in business class with BA.
Okay. May need a bit of a whip round then.
Or we could send Nev to Malaga with EasyJet for £105.
It's not gonna happen.
One way. But I've decided that we're going to send Nev to Malaga with Ryanair for £48.48 return.
Go.
Can I point out a number of things that are wrong with that argument?
Okay, here we go.
I don't need to, do I, really? You know what the answer is. So I have to go BA because I've got to test the biometric stuff.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
I'll have to redo that flight with the economy version then. I think.
I don't know what that is. Sorry.
Okay, right. We'll scrap that idea. Unfortunately, we can't send Nev to Malaga.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got quite a large number of points at the moment, so I'll have a look at it, doing it that way, and let's see if I can get into their trial thing and see if they'll let me have a go.
Okay.
Oh my word!
Well, only if you get into
watch
the
this
trial.
space.
Yeah. Could be a disaster.
It could absolutely be a disaster. Yeah, absolutely.
Stuart Aslett puts in the chat room, who's Ryanair?
Good point. Well made. Yeah, we know someone who used to work for them. He didn't seem to mind it too much.
No. Anyway, enough of this tomfoolery. Nev, what is coming up next on the show?
Yes. Well, as you know, we've been running this fantastic series called Nat Boys. It's a 3-part series that our good friend Nick Anderson has done for us, and he's interviewed Rick Peacock Edwards, and we'll be giving away a signed copy of this book at the end of the 3rd part, which will be next week. So I thought you would like to see and listen to the 2nd part, which Matt's going to play out now for us.
So the Nat size meant that there were some pretty ingenious devices fitted in there to make it all work in such a small space. Now, your cohort, Tom Eales, talks about the infamous Hobson unit, and Frank Foster, who I remember well, sat behind me for many a flight, mentions Cam K, the bane of many a student's life. Now, perhaps you could explain those to the audience.
Well, I have to tell you, Nick, I'm not going to get into a lesson here on the Cam K and the Q gearing and the Hobson unit. I would like far rather sort of give you, because I'll only probably get myself tied up all these years later. How many years? 35, 40 years later. What I will say was the control systems were very complex. And part of that was due to the fact that when the Nat was converted from a single-seat fighter into a two-seat trainer, it was extended. That, of course, affected the CFG and things like that. And it had an interesting controls down the back end. You know, it had an all-flying tailplate, basically. The elevators were sort of locked to the tailplate, but you could unlock the elevators. And it's all related to that. It's related to what speed you're flying at, what happens. Cam K, for example, in particular, has a definite relationship with the speed of the aircraft. But the gearing and the datum shift as well. When you put the undercarriage down, for example, the whole system, it's looking after you. It's looking after you when you're flying it. But if things go wrong, it can screw you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you didn't fall into my trap. What a shame. I have a few things in mind particular to the Nat. Now, perhaps you could just talk about them a little bit, and you might have some of your own. Now, the ejector seat knob, that was a fascinating concept.
It was. I liked the Pollen seat. I actually, I've spent my life sitting on Martin Baker seats where you pull the pins out from down there, up there. But I really found the Nat very simple. Just having that thing behind your neck. If it was live, it stuck into your neck. But it was very simple just to move it around. The seat was lightweight. The size of the person sitting on the seat was very important. And for example, that's why those who were too big to fly the Nat were moved onto the Hunter, because if your thigh length was too long for the seat, when you ejected, you'd probably break your thighs. And well, like any ejector seat, the back length is really critical as well. I enjoyed the Nat seat, and it was a good seat too. It worked. We did have people fly the Nat, and it's reflected in the book, people who, quite frankly, were very large people who probably knew that they shouldn't be flying the Nat because somehow they'd avoided the anthropometric people and were flying it. But I know that there's at least one instructor mentioned in the book who sort of said, if I was ever going to have to eject, I think I was probably going to land it somewhere.
I think that's quite right. Yeah, at over 6'2.5", then I had to spend a special day sitting in the Nat in all my gear with a doctor and a tape measure, making sure that I, in theory, wouldn't leave my legs behind.
I found the Nat really very comfortable. I mean, I was half the size then than I am now. Probably certainly wouldn't get into it now. But I found it an absolute delight. I mean, again, it comes out in the book. You put the Nat on almost. It's such a small aircraft, and you walk up to it and just climb into it and put it on, and
Absolutely.
Off you go. And when you run rolling down the runway, you are only just above the runway itself. Your seat is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the undercarriage air brake system, that was fascinating.
Yeah. I liked it. Again, I found it very effective. It was one way of cutting down weight on the aircraft, and I thought it was really good. I could see no negatives about it, but we did have one or two occasions when the student or even the instructor had landed. Thought he'd had the undercarriage down, obviously hadn't checked 3 greens properly, but actually landed on the air brake.
Right. Perhaps you could explain to the audience who might not be familiar what that system was.
It was the undercarriage. Well, when you put the undercarriage down, 2 main wheels, 1 nose wheel, down it comes, and you go from 3 reds, it says it's on its way down, and when you've got 3 greens, the undercarriage is stuck down and you can land. But the air brake was a part of the undercarriage doors in front of the main wheels, And when you're flying normally, you just operate the air brake, stick the air brakes out, and the undercarriage. All would happen would be the doors would open, and that was your air brake. And
Very clever, really.
It was very clever.
Yeah.
But the main reason for that was weight saving.
Absolutely. The canopy was huge on it, wasn't it?
Again, loved the canopy. It was so nice to sit in an aircraft with a huge canopy, where the lookout was fantastic. The visibility, the view, it was. I mean, we've all flown our later aircraft, the Phantom, for example. We used to look at F-16s and F-15s and
jealousy.
And the canopy in those aircraft. Think, if only.
Absolutely, yeah. The slipper tanks were an interesting thing, and we always seem to be short of fuel in the Nat.
That's interesting. I've heard that comment. Yes, I thought, but you were moving around the sky pretty quickly, and you could do a lot in a 50 minute. I think our average sortie length was about 50 minutes. If we were doing NavXs, high, low, high, you could get 1 hour 5 out of it, about that. But you could. I used to find that was sufficient time to do what you wanted to do. I mean, high, low, high NavXs, we could go right the way up to north of Scotland, come down, low level, back up, high, get in. We're travelling a lot of the time at 420 knots at low level, or Mach 0.9 or round about that area at high level. So you're shifting around the sky. Yes, it. Those of us who went on to Lightnings know a lot more about fuel than that. The slipper tanks. Yeah, if you didn't have a slipper tanks on, then you've got very short range aircraft. And the slipper tanks. I've got a little story in Nat Boys about the slipper tanks. When I was doing a photographic task with one of the national newspapers, and I got one of my slipper tanks showed that it wasn't feeding properly. So I hung around probably just a little bit too long. And if a slipper tank didn't feed, for example, then you had to get the aircraft back on the runway, back on the ground, before the fuel level got down to a certain figure.
Because you ran out of lateral control.
You ran out of lateral control.
Yeah.
All I'll say is that on the final approach to landing at Valley, and I was right on the limit.
Wow.
I could tell exactly why that limit was there, because I was fast running out of control.
Wow. Absolutely, golly. The narrow wheelbase we've mentioned, but it was always easy to tell who was a new student on a Nat just by the way they duck waddled down the runway of takeoff and landing. But once you got the hang of it, it was a pretty good system.
It worked, and the students coped with it admirably. Yes, one or two didn't, and one or two unfortunately fell by the wayside. And I was always sad to see students go. That was never my aim. I always said, in fact, that any students that I have will be the best on the course. I quickly learnt, actually, that was not going to be the case, because you do learn that each student has a different amount of ability. So I changed my view on that one. But not too many failed because they couldn't fly the aircraft. Most, not too many didn't go solo.
That's true. It was mainly a factor of keeping up with the airplane when you started doing more.
And I think an example of how they cope on the runway. I mean, obviously the students, when they're flying solo, they had different limits from the instructors. But we used to formations, for example. We're always 3 ships, and when you've got a student on each wing taking off down the runway very competently, and that is always an example of me how quickly they settle down in it and they grow to love it.
Oh, I certainly did. Fuse 13. That was always a bit of a joke. There are a lot of myths attached to it as well. What was it then?
Fuse 13, the Nat had a fantastic rate of roll, as you will remember. Fuse 13 sort of restricted the rate of roll. Now, there were, I know that the Red Arrows at one stage did sort of fly without Fuse 13. They inhibited Fuse 13, and that increased their rate of roll. Now all this changed basically. There was one There was one particular sort of display pilot who had also removed fuse 13, and very unfortunately, in a roll sort of at an airfield, I forget where it was, but the fin came off.
Oh Lord, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's one. The rate of roll was really fast, but I think sort of when, unfortunately, there was that unfortunate accident when the fin came off, really woke people up.
Yeah. Now, returning from a low-level sortie, often concluded by coming back to Valley down the A5 pass, and that narrow gap at the end over Clearnogwen.
Yep.
It was an immensely exhilarating thing to do. Could you perhaps describe it for us?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, I quite frankly, the low flying we did was just brilliant. We did a lot of it in all its forms. And Wales was a perfect low-flying area, and there were plenty of valleys and things over Wales and lakes and things. But the A5 pass was, as you say, it was special. As I'm talking to you now, I can visualise it sort of coming down, navigating your way about, finding Lake Ogwin, down over Lake Ogwin at 360 knots or whatever speed you were at, and then the real exhilarating bit was at the end, where you knew that it was going to go right and it was going to go down into a valley. And you could come down there and really suddenly you overbanked and down into the valley like that. It was just an exhilarating experience.
It was. Heart-stopping the first time you did it, as you rolled close to inverted and pulled down to what you thought might be rock, in fact to find that the valley suddenly blossomed and opened in front of you and you were flying into clear and safe and below the level of the road that used to go around.
That's exactly right, below the level of the road, so it was very, for those, anybody driving down the road when the gnats were flying, you used to regularly see sort of aircraft going down there, and in fact to this day there are all sorts of aircraft. I seem to remember when I was instructing in Valley, it was very much sort of, it was our territory, but it's much better known. It became much better known as time went on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Discover the pioneers of speed and adventure at one of the UK's most iconic museums. Whether it's a tour of the legendary Concorde, a walk around the Brooklands aircraft factory, or maybe a behind-the-scenes look at the McLaren automotive cars, the Brooklands Museum has it all. Based at Weybridge in Surrey, it's the perfect day out for all the family. We can also host your private function or meeting in one of our amazing event suites. With so much to see and do, come and take a look at Great Britain's history of speed and flight. Find out more by going to www.brooklandsmuseum.com or give us a call on 01932 857 381. That's 01932 857 381. Wow.
He certainly knows his stuff.
Honestly, it's a joy to listen to those two gentlemen, isn't it? Rick and Nick talking as though they're in a pub, just having a chat about the old days and all the rest of it. I love listening to them. That's why I do these series, actually. It's always great when the interviewee feels so comfortable because they're talking with Nick. Nick's got a nice knack of getting the right answers from the questions he asks. But great stuff. Last part is next week, and we will do a competition, as I said, and we will be doing a competition for the book, which Rick has very kindly signed for us as well.
So don't forget to listen out on next week's show to have that chance of winning that book. Is it a hardback book as well, Nev?
It is, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very good, very good. So it's time. It's that time of the show again. We've got the Caption This competition coming up very soon, but it's time for the military news. I know Armando's not here this week, but we have got some military news. Obviously, Nev's been itching to get to this part of the show, so we better move on because we don't want to upset Nev. So hit the button, Matt.
Blast up bogeys 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. 100 St. Bogeys.
So the first story this week in the military comes from gov.uk, bbc.com, expat guide, turkey.com, website we always use every week, and aerotime.aero. And it must be hard, things are getting tough for the RAF because they're moving to using cooking oil to power things. So the military flight powered by cooking oil has taken place in the UK for the first time. The RAF Voyager, the military equivalent of the A330, took off and landed from RAF Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire on Wednesday this week. The Royal Air Force hopes sustainable aviation fuels will help it reach its net zero goal by 2040 and reduce its reliance on global supply chains. Defence Minister Baroness Goldie said it was a breakthrough moment. The 90-minute flight over Oxfordshire was also the first time the military aircraft of such size has used a fully sustainable fuel, which was supplied by Air BP. Wednesday's flight was flown by a combined RAF Rolls-Royce, an Airbus flight test crew who replicated an air-to-air refuelling sortie as it was witnessed by senior RAF and industry representatives. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal, Sir Mike Wigston, said climate change is a transnational challenge and threatens our resilience, our security, and our collective prosperity. That's why we have set the RAF the ambitious challenge of becoming the world's first net zero air force by 2040.
I thought it smelled like a bit of a fish and chip shop when it flew over my house the other day. That's probably why.
Yeah, they obviously spilt some, Nev.
Yeah.
Whilst they were,
There's a coach company near us, Carlos, that used to, well, actually, they're not going anymore, that used to do exactly that. Not the one I used to work for, I should stress. But there was one based over in Ersham.
Kareem, sorry to interrupt you.
No, do.
Mazouz Kareem has come up with the fantastic little punnet saying that the aircraft flew out of Fry's Norton.
Honestly, not just a doctor, hey? I mean, skills.
And Richard Adams says, pity they've retired their chipmunks. It's comedy. You can't beat it, can you?
It's almost painful. Why not keep them coming, hey? What could possibly go wrong? I mean, wow. Love it. I do love a good pun. We don't get enough puns these days, do we?
Honestly, whatever next. It'd be interesting to actually. I just want to go there and stand near one and have a good sniff and see what it does smell like. Does it smell like chips?
You need to be very careful where you're going with that. Once again, family show, ladies and gentlemen, family.
No,
show.
you can't tell me you haven't filled up an unleaded car and thought, oh, that's quite a nice smell. Or avgas. Everyone on who listens to this show loves the smell of avgas.
Unleaded fuel, yes, I agree with you. There is a unique that smell at the airport is very unique. I do like that smell. I have never once filled up my diesel car and thought, usually, to be honest with you, the smell of diesel makes me feel quite sick, if I'm honest. It's a funny old smell, isn't it?
Yes.
Indeed.
Anyway, moving on to the next story, Matt, you've got this one, and well, I'm sorry, you have, yes. It's what our producer John has said.
Oh right, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Sorry, what was Richard Adams saying there? Sorry, before we move on. Better get Flying Officer Nick to do the interview. I really shouldn't have bothered. I do apologise. We'll move on. Story 2. USAF.
I just hope they don't have any chips in their windscreen.
Literally no words. Anyway, the sources available for this particular story, flightglobal.com and fr24.com. USAF KC-46A completes record-breaking 36-hour endurance flight. Hang on a minute, a KC-46A was in the air? My goodness me! This is I feel this is a victory. Anyway, sorry. The U.S. Air Force crew flying a Boeing KC-46A Pegasus aerial refueler has completed a record-setting 36-hour endurance flight. God, you'll be telling me next that they actually gave some fuel to another aircraft successfully without any problems. The United States Air Force Air Mobility Command, AMC, said on the 18th of November the crew flew a 14,000 nautical mile, that's 25,928 kilometre, non-stop endurance flight on the 16th and 17th of November. The AMC oversees the USAF contribution to global US military logistics, including air cargo and air refueling. The KC-46, a derivative of the Boeing 767, departed the US East Coast city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, flew west across North America to Hawaii, circled the central Pacific island of Guam, and returned to Portsmouth. The Air Mobility Command says the flight, which left Portsmouth with the call sign PAC 93, many questions there, according to flight tracking service Flight Radar 24, was the command's longest mission to date. The United States Air Force is among the military services seeking to adapt standard procedures for a potential conflict in the Indo-Pacific region, which is expected to require operating over vast distances with minimal support. Military planners also expect such a scenario would feature persistent jamming of GPS and communications. We have to take a sharp departure from what we've grown used to over the last 30 years. It was said in September at an Air and Space Forces Association, AFA, conference in Washington, D.C. During PAC 93's 14,000 nautical mile journey, it received fuel 3 times from another KC-46 and offloaded fuel to multiple Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor fighters. The AMC KC-46A cross-functional team lead, the Lieutenant Colonel Joshua Renfro, notes this is the 3rd consecutive success for the KC-46 missions lasting 20 hours or more. The type previously completed 22 hours and 24-hour endurance missions. I mean, wow, 3 times. This is very exciting. Yeah, and not only that, but it was also offloading fuel to F-22 Raptors. I think that's quite a successful mission, isn't it?
Well, it's the best they've done so far, I think.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
From what I understand.
Yes. Glass half full again, Nev. Come on. I know military's not your favourite.
No, but at least this is a subject that we all know something about now.
Well, yes,
it?
quite.
Because it's come up not quite every week,
yes,
but a lot of the time. Yeah.
Yes, I mean the KC. Yes, the KC-46, something that even I know what it is, which is a worrying state of affairs, isn't it?
It's worth noting, and Nev will agree on this. Don't bear in mind the KC-46 is based on essentially the 767, which wasn't a bad aircraft, to be fair, Nev.
No, not at all.
It's one of the most popular. Before the 777 came out, the 76 was one of the greatest wide-bodied airliners that Boeing had produced. So
yeah, quite long range too, actually. Used on some very long routes too. Yeah.
So, Nev, you've got the last one, and it's all about the F-16.
Yes, this is thanks to the aviationgeekclub.com, airandSpaceForces.com, and airdatanews.com. And it says that after a hiatus of about 4 years, Lockheed Martin has completed his assembly of a new F-16 fighting Falcon fighter. That's quite difficult.
Beg your pardon.
In preparation for the first flight in early 2023, the first F-16 Viper of the Block 7072 configuration has rolled out of Lockheed Martin's Grenville, South Carolina plant after having completed final assembly and checkout and painting there on the 21st of November, Air and Space Forces magazine reports. The factory is geared up to build at least 128 more of the jets through the end of the decade. The aircraft is destined for Bahrain, should be accepted by the US government early in 2023. It will undergo flight testing at Edwards Air Force Base in California before it's delivered under the Foreign Military Sales Program. According to Lockheed Martin, 5 countries are on contract for the Block 7072, and that's Bahrain, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Taiwan, and one other, it says. Jordan has also signed a letter of offer and acceptance for 8 aircraft. When awarded, that contract will bring the backlog to 136 aircraft. Bulgaria has also begun the process of buying additional aircraft. Lockheed Martin spokesman said that Greenville has multiple other jets in various stages of work. A company spokesman said that also added that the rate of work on Block 70s under construction at Greenville will increase significantly in the fiscal year 2023, building to a production rate of up to 4 aircraft per month. According to Air Force magazine, Slovakia is planning to acquire 70 Block 7072 F-16s, and that country has offered to give a dozen of its retiring MiG-29 aircraft to Ukraine. However, sources have reported that Ukraine has sought to buy F-16s of its own. There's been a discussion of providing F-16s from US stocks to Ukraine, but no firm plans have yet been announced. In January, Lockheed Martin got an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract worth up to $64.3 billion for new production of new F-16s for FMS customers, as well as upgrades of 405 jets in foreign hands to the F-16V configuration, if all potential work materialises. The US Air Force indicated last year that according to its 4+1 fighter roadmap, it plans to keep flying the F-16 well into the 2030s, assuring potential buyers of a strong pipeline for parts and support into the next decade. As already reported, the US Air Force has decided to modify 608 Block 40 and 50 jets to that standard in one of the largest modernisation efforts in the US Air Force's history. 608 F-16s comprised of Block 40 and 50 will undergo up to 22 modifications designed to improve lethality and to ensure that the fourth generation fighter remains effective in meeting current and future threats. The service has also apparently dropped plans for an F-16 replacement. So there we go. Lots of work there. That's a lot of money, isn't it? $64.3 billion US dollars.
So basically, what they've done then, they've installed, air conditioning, electric windows in these new F-16s.
And the heat-through window, yes.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
Very important, obviously.
that's good.
Must be done.
and central locking.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, quite. Indeed. Love it. Jonathan Warner saying, I'd love to see the differences between the new Block 7072 compared to the original A model.
Oh, I would as well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, why is there a picture of a KC-46 on the screen?
It's because, sorry, that's Mr. Warner.
It's a very nice picture.
Yeah, sorry, it's got nothing to do with that. Ignore me, sorry, it was for the story before. It's
good.
I'm having a few technical problems in the studio. Myself and Mr. Warner were playing the game.
No, I thought you were going to say that Jonathan Warner is not able to identify military aircraft.
No, abort, move on. Quick, next story.
Jonathan Warner's got about 1,096 million trillion gigs worth of pictures that say otherwise.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, indeed. He knows his stuff. Yes,
he does. Yeah. Hello to Jenny in Rome, by the way, who's just joined us in the chat room. Hello, Jenny.
Aww.
Just in
in
time. So that's it for the military, by the way. Armando will hopefully, fingers crossed, be back next week to bring us some proper military news. But we have got a very special announcement to make at the end of the show about grey stuff.
So who did the grey stuff today then? Because you've clearly just been very rude to them.
No idea.
Okay.
John's sitting there smiling.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
I can see him.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
I was gonna say that's a bit brutal, isn't it? Yeah. What a lovely man you are.
Well, didn't you notice that the stories had less acronyms and stuff in to make things harder for us? That was
right. Okay.
Because normally when I'm on.
Yes, good point. Yes, John is saying we also don't have someone to explain them, which is fair enough.
Exactly.
There we go. Right, okay, that's the one from the last story.
Are you all right, Matt?
No.
Okay. There's random pictures coming up on the screen now.
Well, Mr. Warner keeps sending them to me, so I mean anything could happen.
Anyway, that's a nice F-16 on the screen, by the way.
Good. That was to do with the last story, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Right.
Very good.
Anyway,
Better late than never. it is that time of the show again where we have our caption this just for fun. Now, it's safe to say that when I put the picture up this week of our caption this, it did spark quite the interest within our community on Facebook. So for those of you who don't know, every Wednesday-ish, we put a picture on Facebook, a random aviation funny picture for you to comment on, and we kind of go through the comments and pick the ones that we can say on air. Obviously, it's a family show, as Matt knows. This week, the picture I chose was kind of for two reasons. One, it's an aviation-related picture, obviously, but the other one was because Matt does love his Star Wars.
Right.
So, Matt, if you'd like to pop up the picture for caption this week on the screen for our YouTube viewers to see, so they can see what the picture is. Matt's just having some oxygen on the flight deck. He's fine.
Absolutely. No, it's because I'm on a 757 and it's trying to kill me.
So we had some interesting comments in. I'll kick off with this first one from John. Says, father teaches cheeky upstart pilot's son the effects of the dark forces around negative G. If they don't obey the seatbelt sign.
Ooh. Actually,
next one?
We did a story about that, didn't we, where people weren't?
Yeah, Nev, you want the next one with Jack?
Yeah, I'm not going to do the voice here, but Jack says, I find your lack of compliance to the seatbelt sign disturbing.
I like that. Yeah.
Stephen, do you want to do Stephen, Matt, or do you want me to?
I'll try. Yes, I can. Yes, actually. You've passed your last fart, Commander. It's a bit rude.
Stephen also says, say Airbus is better than Boeing one more time. I dare you.
True.
Michael says, come fly the friendly skies with United.
Oh. Ben is saying, I find your lack of faith in our economy product disturbing.
Stephen, this is my favourite. When this popped up, it did make me chuckle. Stephen says, Nev reacts to a fellow passenger having sat in seat
Right.
A.
Yes, yeah, that does look like something you do.
Very good, Stephen. Ben says, but Lord Vader, you said I could have the window seat.
Acme Airlines gets creative with problem passengers who refuse to wear a mask. Don't they know Darth Vader has an underlying health concern?
And David's this is good. This is good, David. What do you mean I can't stream PTUK live?
Mike says, I'm sorry, Mr. Vader, you'll have to check him in. I'm afraid he won't fit into the overhead bin.
I quite like that. This is Jason's got a great idea here. He's suggesting this may be Jet2's new onboard security.
Now that I'd like to see. Gary says, stop drinking and making a bloomin' nuisance of yourself. Very good.
I'm going to ask somebody else to do this one because it says in your best Darth Vader voice.
Yes, I must admit I'm not very good at a James Earl Jones impression, but it says Stuart saying, these in-flight entertainment screens are as old as the movie costume. It's time you learn the power of our satellite-linked Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Nev, go on with James.
James says, now take your seat or you go in the overhead bin. Your choice.
And to finish off, Lee says, put on your blinking mask.
Well, quite, yes.
We've had a few in the chat room.
Oh, have we? Oh, okay. All right, go on. Yeah.
Oh, my word. We'll start with Mazouz. Mazouz says, the Ryanair version of facial recognition.
Quite like that one. Yes, I think that's my favourite. Yes, that's my favourite so far. I like that.
Micah says, can't you see the no smoking sign?
Very good. Very good.
Richard Adams says, you left your lightsaber in the locker?
That's a silly idea.
Main Man Micah says, she said, put your electronic devices, or put away your electronic devices.
Well, quite.
Richard Adams says, you dare ask for 1A when Nev is on board?
Well, I think that's good. Yes, yeah.
Our main man Micah says again, this is the last time I will ask you not to recline your seat. And that is that's blooming good.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. Yeah, that's the future.
And to top that one, we've all had this before. Micah says, I told you to stop kicking my seat.
I've never had that. I've never had somebody kicking my feet.
And last one from Richard Adams says, may the farce be with you.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very good. Very good.
So thank you to everyone who contributed.
Ourselves. Yes, very good.
Thanks to everyone who contributed. Don't forget to keep your eyes. If you don't already follow us on Facebook, check us out on Facebook. Details at the end of the show. And we'll post another picture next week for you all to leave your humorous comments on. So there we go.
Yes. We didn't actually.
Sorry. For the benefit, Matt needs to do this one because Matt is the Star Wars person here. So, Matt, benefit of our audio listeners, the picture was of.
So, if my memory serves, this is actually from The Empire Strikes Back, this particular scene, and it's Darth Vader who's got. Oh no, it might be from the first one. Anyway, it's from either the first or second film. Darth Vader has got hold of someone who has displeased him, shall we say, in a compromised position, and it looks like. Well, I'm trying to. Can anybody identify the airline? From the livery.
All I'm going to say is I think Nev will agree with me here. Those TFT displays look a bit
dated.
Yeah, it's also an economy section.
Right.
Not an area of the aircraft I'm familiar with.
Okay. Yes, but it's a very famous scene from Star Wars, basically, that's been superimposed into the economy section of an unidentified aircraft.
Yes, and Mr. Vader is holding up the said chap in with his hand up in the holding him up in the air, trying to do nasty things to him. Anyway, so that'll be more on that next week. More of that stuff next week.
Indeed.
So before we wrap up and the social media links and other stuff like that, we have an announcement to make. It's finally here. The time is here for everyone who loves the military segment of the show. We can confirm that as of now, if you go to our website, allthews.planetalkinguk.com, you can now purchase your very own military mug from our store. They're on there to buy. On the screen, for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see the mugs are on the screen there. Armando has actually test drunk from one of these mugs, and he confirms that they are of a very high quality and high standard of even.
Well, there we are. Yes, absolutely. Very high standard of mugging, everyone. Very good. Lovely.
So yes.
And on that bombshell, it's time to end.
And Mazoos has made a very good comment in the chat room saying, that's Nev's Christmas present sorted.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, everybody send him one. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I have this vision now of the parcel force driver turning up on Christmas Eve with a van load of grey mugs.
Yeah, I think that's the future. I think that's the way forward. Yeah,
I'll have to use it on the show just for the shame of it. But I think actually, having said all that, joking apart, they are extremely high quality. These mugs, aren't they? As well.
Yeah,
indeed, yes, and thanks to John, obviously, because he's done all the artwork on this one. I'm my favourite bit, but other than have we ever named Mac or whatever he's called?
It was Mac, wasn't it?
He is called
Mac.
Okay,
he's
right,
Mac.
Okay,
he's called Mac.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So, other than Mac, who is pretty cool, and obviously when you see the video thing, he even flies. I mean, that's how cool he is. But I must admit, I am loving the US-UK flag in the middle there between the two. That for me is like one of my favourite things about that. I love that. It's a shame we can't do that on our UK thing, I suppose, really. But there we go. I only listen for the grey stuff. I think that's a phrase specifically for Jonathan Warner, I suspect. But
yes,
there we are.
So for the benefit of our audio listeners, get yourselves over to our website. You'll see on the shop. Just click on the store part of the page. You'll see all them on there.
And in answer to Bill's question, yes, he is the show drunk.
Yes, Armando can confirm it does hold other things other than tea and coffee.
How do you select more than one? You don't, is the short answer. It's not that sophisticated, I'm afraid.
Oh my word!
Oh, we found a bug.
Oh,
okay,
blimey!
We got live.
It took us 6 months to get them on here, and now Richard Adams finds.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the postage and packing is included, so I suppose it's
yeah.
we'll work it out.
You'll just have to click the button. A few times, Richard.
Message us if you want more than one. Then message us directly, and we'll do it outside of the system. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way. But if you just want one, then that's your best bet is to do it through there. So there we go. Available in the US and UK market.
Yes, US and UK. So get those fingers clicking, and other markets. Yeah. I think or not. No,
I'm going to say. It depends. I don't know. You could.
If you live elsewhere, give Matt a ring.
Right.
Give him an email. We'll sort it out.
The way we do it is because it depends on if it depends basically on the service that we use to have the mugs made. It depends on if they have a store in that country.
Oh yes.
If they do, then yes, we can do it. If they don't, we don't, because we don't ship them directly from here. Basically, they are dispatched from where they're made. But we can organise something if needed. So if you are unable to, if you don't live in the UK or the US, get in touch. We can still sort it out for you.
Yeah. So, social media links. Right, okay. So, if you want to know where we are, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Search for Plain Talking UK. There's a WhatsApp number if you want to send a picture to go on the green screen behind me or Matt. The mugs are still on the screen. You can click on +44 757 2249166 is that WhatsApp number. Matt loves to hear from you about 3 a.m. He loves it. Email the show podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Feedback. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you think of the series that we've been running on the show. The great interviews that we've been doing. We'd love your feedback on those. If you want to email us, that would be fantastic. The website, allthews.plaintalkinguk.com, is where you'll find our shop. On there you can purchase grey mugs, and you can purchase other mugs as well, and t-shirts as well, and t-shirts, not forgetting t-shirts as well on there if you've not already bagged yourself a PTUK t-shirt. There's also an Amazon link on there to do your shopping if you do your shopping on Amazon, like I think everyone is this time of the year. So if you're going to go and buy your box of Lego, Star Wars themed Lego. Don't forget to click on the link. It doesn't cost you a single penny, but we do get a small referral fee from Amazon. So do your shopping via our link on our website. We would very much appreciate that. And also on the website, you'll find links to Patreon and PayPal if you want to become a supporter of the show. We very much appreciate that as well. All helps to put the show together and to keep Matt stocked up with various cables of different things with cables. You know what Matt's like with his cables. Loves a cable, does our Matt.
It's absolutely fine until you say, "Oh, I want to go and do this in this random location." That's when we need cables. When we're in here, it's fine because it's all plugged in and ready to go.
So we've got time before we say goodbye. So quick round robin. Nev, what are you up to next week?
Next week, various towns and cities around the United Kingdom. Beaconsfield, High Wycombe, Cardiff and Exeter are my destinations for next week in the car. And then the week after that, I'll be in Denmark and Sweden for 2 or 3 days for work. But a very hectic schedule at the moment. So, looking forward to be back on the show next Friday.
Hello, we've got our first mug sale.
Very nice.
And same for me, really, just work things, lots of training for me this week as well. Very busy on that front. Got a whole day of training on Tuesday, and then the rest of the time just making sure our customers get their lovely Christmas wines with them in good time.
So I'm going to say thanks to Richard Adams. He has just purchased himself a grey mug. So, Richard, will be sending that off to you as soon as possible. Hopefully it'll be with you by
Christmas.
As long as the Royal Mail can...
Which Christmas? That's
sort something out.
Very cagey. Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be fine. But next, what am I doing next week? Do you know what? I've got a rare day in the office on Monday, and I'm really looking forward to just doing officey things.
Wow.
But to be fair, I'll probably spend at least 2 hours cleaning my lorry, because if you see the state of my truck when I got back from Yorkshire this afternoon, it went from a lovely blue and shiny colour to a kind of grey.
And Carlos doesn't like it when his truck's
And I
dirty.
don't like dirty truck.
No,
No, dirty truck. No, I don't.
Don't.
So that'll be me next week, plus a loads of other driving I expect around the UK.
Very good.
John, what are you up to next week?
Lovely, excellent.
Oh,
Well
really?
done.
Thank you for that. Thanks, John. Well done. Lovely to hear from you as always. Right, so we're going to say a big thanks to all the chat room for joining us tonight. Everyone in there been keeping us really amused this evening. So thanks to everyone in the chat room. Thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast as well. Thank you to everyone who does that. And don't forget, if you've got a spare 5 minutes this weekend and you download through Podbean or Stitcher or iTunes, if you could leave us a little review on there, that would be fantastic. Other than that, that is where we're going to bring episode 435 to a close. So that's it then. We'll see you next Friday on the show at 7 o'clock next Friday. So from me, Carlos, here in my home studio, from Matt in the P2K Master Suite studios, from Nev in his glorious proper studio over there with all the glorious speakers and padding on the wall, looks very nice. And also a big thanks to John as well, not forgetting John, our producer, who's done all the work on the show behind the background for this week. Thanks to you as well, John. See you later. And from all of us, take care. We'll see you next Friday. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.